talking about scripture because that's how I've been based since I was a little kid. And I'm going to tell you some history about me so you can understand where I'm coming from as well. Since I was a little kid, I was raised by a mother and father that were super, super, super Catholic and super, super religious. When I say that, my mother, till the day she had her stroke that she passed away, she would get up at 5 or 6 in the morning and pray her rosary every single day. So she was very, very much a Catholic, as you would call it. So my mother would always tell me these stories about revelations and how things were going to happen, and so she's, she always embedded these things, and I know not a lot of people have had that in their life. So I wanted to share a little bit about my history so you can understand where I'm coming from and how I've been able to connect the dots with my life. And we're all able to do this. You just have to kind of see what your purpose is, and when you find it, then it's super simple. So in order, I always say we must start with Noah, right? Which is an acronym that I came up with, that God, it's, obviously I'm just the messenger, and it's Noah, right? So it's N-O-A-H. So it's nutrition, it's O for opportunity, A for action and accountability, and H for history. So right now we're going to go through history, right? So, and everything that I tell you guys, this is something that I live by. So I live by those acronyms. And now things are being really revealed because we are in the time of revelations. And I want to read to you a little bit of the word because we're basing this on the Bible and science. And people that believe in astrology. It seems that, it's not, it doesn't seem, it's, everything is being exposed at this point, and it's like a veil's been lifted, right? So here, let me read a little bit. The word revelation means the disclosure of which was pre-visually hidden or unknown. The book of Revelations tell us that Jesus is coming, and how he is coming, and what condition the world will be in when he comes. Well, here we go. Right now, a lot of things are being exposed because a lot of new laws have been signed to deal with this coronavirus. They've realized that humanity is extremely fragile at this point. That's why everybody has to stay home, right? And that's why all the agendas are coming up. But again, we're going to be basing a lot of things with the book, which is the Bible. And this is actually, I have the Bible with me, and I also have this one, which is Escaping the Night. And this is basically an entire book just about Revelations, which is the end times that we're living right now. So I'm going to, so again, Revelations is that everything's going to be revealed. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my history. I've done my DNA, and I have, my bloodline goes all the way back to Jewish bloodline. And it's very, very small. It's only 2%. So I'll tell you something more, a little bit closer to me. So my parents were born in Mexico. Both of them were born into a Catholic household. But before that, before they were both born, the Spaniards had arrived in what is now called Mexico. So when my grandparents were born in Mexico, their birth certificate actually says Nueva España, meaning New Spain. This is when the Spaniards were trying to conquer what now is Mexico. Maximiliano, which is the brother of the King of Austria, Francis, is the one that was designated to go to Mexico. And he was actually killed by the El Revolucionario, I couldn't even say it, Zapata, Emiliano. He was a guy that didn't want to be conquered, and he actually killed him. So when he killed him, they ended up leaving. So that's why now it is Mexico. So of course the Spaniards, when they were conquering in Mexico, they wanted everybody to be Roman Catholics, okay? And that was just the agenda. It happened here in the United States, in the Americas. All the Indians that did not convert or did not conform in either good way or force, they would be killed. And we know that from going to the missions when we're in the 5th grade, and we learned about that. So that's like not too long ago. So they did the same thing with Mexico. And my family, again, it comes all the way back from Jewish. I can trace it back with names and everything all the way to Portugal. So in Europe, they started, I'm assuming in Africa, because I have some African as well, African and Jewish blood. So it goes from that, and I trace it back all the way down to Portugal. So I went somewhere around, you know, Jewish and Africa and all that, and ended up in Portugal. In Portugal, they believed in Jesus. Like, again, I can trace it back all the way to Portugal. So at that time, they believed in Jesus, but they didn't want to conform to any religion, because when Jesus came on earth, he came to say that religion didn't matter. He actually went to, on the Sabbath day, it states in the Bible, that he disrupted the Sabbath day. And that was a day that the Jewish people would just pray. And so since he disrupted, and the way he was disrupting the church was by going in there and actually performing miracles. And when that happened, the high priest, or the Jewish people, decided that he was disrupting. So what they did is they told the Romans, which at that point they were the authority, the Romans. So the Romans went ahead, and as we know, they prosecuted him, and they gave the people the choice on who they were going to kill, and they ended up crucifying Jesus. And he rose on the 3rd day. So all his believers, everybody that believed in him, because he did reveal himself to many people around the world, knew that they needed to follow him. And what he was preaching was love. And it didn't matter about religion. And it didn't matter about what color you were. It didn't matter if you were a prostitute. It didn't matter if you were a saint. Sorry, there is no saints. We're humans. We're all the same. It didn't matter if you were rich or if you were poor, but we were all the same, and that's what he was teaching. So after all that happened, after he rose, and you have to understand that I've been traveling the world, and God has taken me to these places for a reason. So I've been seeing this. I've gone to Italy to see these actual artifacts. I've been to the Vatican. I've traveled to Greece, and let me get back to where we're at with Jesus. So after he rose, the Romans were scared, and I'm assuming they were scared because they realized, and there's a lot of depictions about it, that they realized that they did kill the Messiah. They ended up killing the actual king. So when I went to Rome, the story goes that the mother of Constantine, which was the emperor at the time, had a dream. And in her dream, God told her to make a church in his name and to spread the word about Jesus throughout the entire world. So that's what they did. They started to build the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire was already built, but now they were going to do the Roman Catholic Church. So then in the name of Jesus, they were going to convert everybody. But here's the thing, people were not just converting them by showing them love. They converted them by force, because people believed in things but didn't want to be a certain way. And the reason I'm getting down to Catholic is because I grew up in that type of household, and I know it and I lived it. So again, they went out and they converted everybody. So I've traced my family, my father's side, all the way to Portugal and Spain. So what happened was they were prosecuted. They wanted to kill them if they did not convert, and that's what they did. So they went all the way to Mexico. In Mexico, the story goes that they were called Jesucitos. It wasn't a religion. It was just that they just believed in Jesus. So again, when the Spaniards ended up going to Mexico, they wanted to kill anybody that didn't convert. And the way they murdered them was extremely graphic. They would the men, they would bury them from the neck down with cement, and they would let them die that way. It was like a torture, you know, you either had to convert or not. So that's happened in like way back, I think it was like the 17th, 18th century. So that happened to my dad's family. So by the time my father was born, and you have to understand, when all of this was happening, there was also they were sending out priests throughout, and they were trying to tell them, you guys try to convert them, in the good way, because the priests obviously they believed in Jesus. They wanted to do it the correct way. So some of them were good, and I'm sure some of them were corrupt. But the thing was, they were really trying to change people and say, hey, just, it's the same thing. It's Catholic, it's Jesus, and it's God, and whatever. But the problem is, they started to put so many relics around it. They started to put saints, and they started to using like the rosary. And I want to get really specific with that, because in the Catholic Church, again, my mother used to wake up at 5, 6 in the morning and do the prayers every single morning. And the rosaries, when you repeat yourself, like I have the Mala's beads, right? When you repeat yourself, you're creating these highways on your thought, right? Like even in the book The Secret, or in the movie The Secret, what you think you will create. And this is why I'm saying connecting the dots, because it doesn't matter if you believe in science or if you believe in spiritual, everything is being aligned at this moment. So it is true, what we think is what could become. So when you're doing these rosaries, right? And what does the Catholic Church tell you to pray? And I remember my mom putting me on my knees, and I would pray, Ave Maria, ruega por nosotros los pecadores. Pray for us, the ones that sin. So if we keep saying that over and over and over and over and over, what's going to happen? We're going to continue to sin. We're going to be sinners, because we're creating those highways in our brain. So there's a book that I'm actually waiting for, and these are the lost verses of Jesus, and it's called, I will share the name of it, but it's the prophecies, or not the prophecies, it's the quotes of Jesus, and it was by Thomas, the Scriptures of Thomas, that's what it's called. And it said, Jesus said, when you think and you feel, you will become it, and you will create it, right? Because what you think and what you feel, when you start feeling it, when you start to envision yourself doing it, whatever it is, you can do it, because we're creators, right? We're creators. God made us where we create. We're like constantly creating things. We're building things. We can do anything. We're creators, especially women, because we are, mothers. Anyways, getting back to, so we're all creators, right? And they left that out. They left the fact that whatever we think, whatever we feel, we end up creating. And why did they do that? They took away our power to think and be whoever we want, out of love, out of good. So what did they tell us? The Catholics, we had to pray to the rosary, or do the rosary, and constantly say that we were sinners. So when you say you are a sinner, you will become a sinner. So the reason I'm sharing all of this and all these connecting the dots is because I need you, all of you, to get in control of yourself. And when I say that is, let God be the driver. Okay, God gives us will. And that's why when I say Noah, actions and accountability, he gives us will. He gives us everything here on earth. It's up to us to make the negative choice or the positive choice. And that's why we're here today. Today we're in the time of revelations, where so much evil is on the earth. So much that we're able to see it. And that's why we're living this right now. The entire world is going through the same exact thing at the same time. The last time this happened was, and they don't really have it too recorded, they know there was the big flood. So the last time this happened was Noah, because they have water, like they can measure that there was a huge flood around the world. So that we know for a fact. So the last time that happened, that it affected the entire world, was Noah's time. And today, it's a virus. A simple, invisible virus. In Revelations, and I want to get back down to Revelations, it says that at the end of times, there's going to be a false god that will be the 10-headed dragon that will have crowns on its head, and it will clean 1/3 of the population. 1/3 of the population. So numbers don't lie. In the Bible, it also says that the sign of the beast is 666. So I did the math. I believe we have 8 billion people in the world. So what's 8 billion? Sorry, I gotta do it right. What is 1/3 of 8 billion? And the number is, I don't know if you guys can see that, it's 2 plus all those 6s. Those are the numbers. So again, the Bible doesn't lie. It's predicted, or however you want to call it, when Jesus was coming and how he was coming. So today, everything again is being revealed. That's why it's called Revelation. So right now we're living in a time where everything is being exposed, right? We're able to see so much. God is, all these theories that are out there, so much, some are real, some are fake, and we're going to be able to see so many things, because this is also what a lot of spiritual people have been talking about, the Great Awakening. The veil will be lifted because we've been in a time of sleep. We've been so preoccupied with the world that we live in, that things, the makeup, the purses, I like all that. We're God's children, and we're princesses and queens, and we deserve to have all this stuff, but there's too much distraction. We forgot about the inner. It's okay to have all this stuff, but now at this point, does it really matter? No, right? So at the end, you cannot get buried with everything you have. Like my mom would always say that, no te vas a llevar nada cuando te mueras. And right now, we're in lockdown, but we're in it doesn't matter where you live. We have house, a roof over our head. We have food. So we're blessed, and we have air in our lungs. So we have a lot more than what a lot of people had when they went through the last plagues, because that's what we're living, an actual plague. So connecting the dots. God has sent me around the world, and there is no coincidence. God has put me in a position to interview people around the world that are part of the INBA, the International Natural Bodybuilding Association. And meeting these people around the world, all of them had the same exact goal. And everybody wanted to be a better version of themselves. And because the organization required for you to be natural, it was forced upon us to make sure that we didn't take no stimulants. So stimulants alter your actual thought, right? So we don't want to confuse our thoughts, and we don't want to confuse our body with stimulants and other man-made products, because genetically engineered products like foods and fillers, that's also things that are going to alter your thinking. So we don't want to put none of that in our body. So what the organization created, Mr. Denny Keiko's, was an actual, hey, everybody has to follow it. So now everybody has to eat correctly, right? It wasn't going to be a quick fix. You had to really do the work. So I was put in a position where I got to interview these people, and I got to really know them, and finding out why they chose to do that. Why did they want to compete? Why did they change their life? Because all these people that I interview, they all found themselves, or they're in the process of finding themselves, but I'm going to say 99% of themselves are already there, because we have new athletes. is because all those hours of really just being with yourself and being purposeful, eating for purpose, working out for purpose, we start learning the concept of being purposeful. And that's what we're supposed to do here on earth. We're supposed to live our purpose. And the only way we're going to do it is if we get rid of all the excess. And the only way to do that is by eating clean, by eating alkaline food. So all those people around the world, after they figure out who they are and what their purpose is, they start helping other people. So just like me giving you this message, there's so many people that are helping and giving the message. Because 6 years ago, 6 years and 3 months ago, and I share a little bit in my book, I had what I called at the moment a breakdown because I didn't understand what was going on. And it was one of the lowest points in my life. And I say that because I was focusing on the negative. I was focusing on the one thing that was gone in my life when I had so much more. So God revealed himself to me in that moment. And he told me I had a message for the world that I could not give up. And that message was that we're eating trash, that we needed to get rid of all the excess. Now you have to understand that God gave me this message when I wasn't a champion. I had, yes, competed twice, but I had taken a year off. So it was like a bucket list. It wasn't about me going back. So I knew nothing about nothing. I did a program, I won, I kept it up, but it wasn't something that I wanted to continue. So when he gave me that message, I didn't understand. And I'm like, who's going to listen to me? So I was very confused. It was a very confusing time in my life. And during that time, everybody went away for a very short period of time. Even my daughter moved out. And I share a little bit in the book, but I don't get as deep as what I'm telling you today. My daughter ended up leaving because I ended up bringing 2 older homeless men into my house to make them pozole. I made pozole and I invited them to come eat. Now God, in that moment when he was revealing himself to me, he had it, no coincidence. I went to 7-Eleven to put gas and I ran into this, a man that was about the age of my mom and dad. And I sparked up a conversation. Come to find out that that man used to work at Tony's Billiards in Santa Monica, California back in the 70s. That's where my mother, I believe, used to work, and my father would visit that Tony Billiards all the time as a kid. I was about 5 years old at the time. And he would tell me stories about my mom. And so what that made me realize, what God was showing me in that moment, that it didn't matter who you were. It mattered what choices you make. It doesn't matter where you come from. Sometimes circumstances, sometimes your choices will bring you to this. So he chose to do drugs. So he ended up being homeless. So when I bumped into him, he was actually collecting trash. And it was a Sunday. And that day, it was 2 weeks. He introduced me to other homeless people. And one of them, the one that I actually brought to my house, used to be a bail bonds. His family used to own a San Bernardino family-owned bail bonds. And when the father died, everybody did their own thing. Again, he chose drugs. And he ended up homeless. But I was able to see that. And I was able to see what happens. And I was trying to help them. And I did. But I also realized, that we got to be careful, right? We got to be careful with everything we do. So I understand that my daughter leaving, it was protecting her daughter and herself, because she didn't understand what I had just gone through, a complete nervous breakdown. And then I'm bringing 2 gentlemen that you could tell they weren't very clean or anything. And I did sit them, I brought them into my house and I made them a pozole, and it was, it was in January. It was a nice day. I remember sitting in the backyard. I was around them for about 2 weeks. The last Sunday, because I would always tell him that one of them, the one that knew my parents because he was older, I would always tell him, let's go to church. And that was something that was in my heart, and I knew that I had to give him this message. And he ended up going to church that Sunday. Sunday, he actually, the entire time, and we actually went to a Catholic church, so the word was that day was beautiful. And the entire time he was there, he had his head down. And I believe that he reconnected with God. And 2 days later, he died. So he died at Loma Linda Hospital, close by to me. And it was because he continued to do his drugs, but I believe he was able to save his soul. And that's what we're trying to do here. And that's why we're getting to scripture. So again, I want to tell you all of these things because I needed to share my background so you can understand where I'm coming from. God has no mistake. God hasn't only chosen me to share the message, but many, 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 many lights. And all I'm doing is helping you find your light, because when we get back to the basics, then we can really find our purpose. All of us, we can all find our gifts because we're all his children. And again, now I want to get back to what's happening right now so we can connect the dots, because it's extremely important. So the fight has been an invisible fight right now. They call it the coronavirus because it has a bunch of different little crowns. In the word, it says the dragon will come and clean 1/3 of the population, as I said. That invisible, what that's connected with the 5G, what everybody's talking about. If you don't know what it is AI, artificial intelligence, which is 5G is like the new antennas that they're putting up around the world so we can have better service, and so they can work their biggest computers. So again, I went to CERN where they have the biggest computer. Again, there was no coincidence why I went there. God sent me there, and the computers are the 5G. The actual city that has all the towers already built is where it started in China. There's no coincidence. Right now here in the United States, they're going up. I actually spoke to someone yesterday that works for the cell sites, and he's putting them up. One of the athletes that lives in Australia that worked for the largest, and it's still the largest cell company in the world, she used to work for them. And in September, I believe that's the date, her lungs collapsed. An athlete, a pro bikini champion that traveled the world with us, her lungs collapsed. A very healthy person. She said back then that it was the 5G. I didn't even understand what she was talking about. She reached out to me yesterday or a few days back, and she told me that she felt like she had a fever and that she was going to be in quarantine. But now she's okay. I want to start with that. She's okay. She does not have the virus. But she shared with me and she shared with Facebook on how 5G is working. 5G is, and they've done several reports that every time they come up with new technology, we get hit with a virus. It's an invisible virus. It hits alkaline bodies, and that's what it attaches to. She shared with the world, and she shared with me on a personal level that that's what made her lungs collapsed. And that she understands that it's part of the agenda, because in Revelations It says, when it says that it's going to clean the earth, it's talking about politicians and what they call gods, false gods. So that is what's falling at this point. I know a lot of people have a lot of conspiracies about a lot of people falling in, some people that were idolized, and a lot of that's going to be revealed. A lot of the elites, like Weinstein, he has the virus. So that's what Revelations is talking about. So us, his people, he's not going to let his people go, which is us. And that's why I'm giving you this message. This is what God wants me to share with the world. And I've been sharing it for the last, few years. And it's not something just because I'm a bodybuilder and I learned this from, working out and learning this stuff by bodybuilding. All these other things that I tell you about, like the remedies, are things that my mother showed me. So these are things that came down from generations and generations and generations on how to heal the body. I would think my mom was like kind of a little off on what she would do. When I was a kid, she never took me to the doctor. So if I would get a fever, sometimes it would get over 100 and I would hallucinate. It was that bad. So my mom would put tomatoes. She would get fried tomatoes. She would fry them and she would put them on my feet. And then she would put socks on. And I'm like, what the heck is she doing? I didn't know anything, but I felt better after she did that. So it was alcohol and fried tomatoes. And now, come to find out, because again, science and your traditions and all of these things, they are all colliding. God's that perfect that now he's letting you see everything, every single connection. So they have proven that tomatoes, fried tomatoes, pull all the acid out of your body. Isn't that cool? Like your own food, right? Like things that God, has for us. Like he's the one that made sure that we have those things. They're things from the ground. The onions, having the onions absorb the bad bacteria in the air, that comes from God. The crystals are made of salts and minerals that protect you. They protect you from the 5G. The 5G is also, 5G is just like what they say, all our phones. Mine's a 2G. I'm never going to pass that, and maybe I shouldn't even have that, but I don't think we can go backwards at this point. The 5G releases radiation and releases this stuff. So that's why when they're showing you the map on where the virus has hit, it has hit wherever the 5G is already. And guess where the 5G is? It's going to be in New York. It's going to be in Washington. It's going to be in California, right? These are like all the advanced places, the countries, or the states, I should say. So that's where it's happening. That's where the virus is hitting. So crystals are super important. You put crystals, I have them everywhere just because I love them. And I've always been like attracted to them. I like the way they look. And then now come to find out that they protect you. And of course God put that in my heart because that's what we're supposed to do. And I'm supposed to share this message with you. And again, I am just trying to light your fire, help you light your fire because you guys have it in there. All I want to do is just share the things that we can do to help ourselves because again, and this is in Revelations, and this is at the end of Revelations, it says that God's nation will be healed by his leaves. Now, we're in a moment where we know so much about cannabis, right? Cannabis, God created that. It's our herbs. Our herbs are our medicine. So cannabis is amazing because it alkalines your body. They've done studies that even like, even radiation. So if you would have marijuana plants all around you, it will protect you from radiation. So like this is all proven stuff. And now we're coming to a point where everything is being unveiled, right? So like my mother having all these traditions and all these things, all these remedies, they weren't by chance. they were things that were passed on because we didn't know about a religion. We didn't know about, you know, anything other than our family. Like, family was number one for my mom, and for, like, she would do anything to fight for her children. And so it was about healing. My mom used to heal everybody. I mean, we lived in Inglewood, and there was a lot of people that needed help, and my mom would help them, from helping them with lice to helping them, feeding them. So just like I brought homeless people or 2 people to feed them at my house, my mom would make on a regular basis burritos. And then they would freaking line up in front of the house at the gate. And she would just tell them, stay there. Because of course, you know, she had children and they were doing stuff they weren't supposed to do. And sometimes they would be, you know, not all there, but my mom knew, you know, she would help them. And so again, this comes from, you know, generations and generations. And it wasn't only my mom, my aunt did the same. And there were just traditions. And I'm telling you, when I was growing up, I was like, why is my mom putting tomatoes? You know, my mom didn't really use sage. She used a lot of stuff, but not sage. She used plants for teas, and now we're knowing that teas are number 1 to alkaline our body. So let me see what else. Oh, about the 5G real quick before, I know there's a lot of stuff to talk about. So how we can fight the virus, the 5G, we have to alkaline our body. We need to protect ourselves. When I say the crystals protect you, it's just like, for example, the salt. When they tell you, hey, you know, you have oral surgery, or just went to the dentist, or you have something going on in your mouth, they tell you to gargle with salt water. Well, salt kills bacteria. So it's the same thing. This is all, it kills all the bad ions, I guess that's what they call it. I actually even ordered a light that converts the bacteria into good, but you can do the same thing with crystals, okay? So I just want to share with you guys what I know so far. The false flag, because it does say in Revelations that after this virus, because we're going to come out of it, we just have to share the message to alkaline the body and stay home for now. We will come out of this because we're God's children, and we have everything at the tip of our hands. That you don't believe me, you can Google all this stuff, and you know that even the president announced yesterday that they have a therapeutical a treatment. So it's not a vaccine, but it's a therapeutical treatment that they will do on our veterans first, what some people would call the forgotten people. They will get it before the rich people, which is amazing, because they should, because they fought for our country, and they're like me and you. So because of that, we know for a fact, not only from me, not only from other people, but we know that remedies, natural remedies help. Therapeutical medicine works, which is high doses of vitamin C, our herbs. It's just about alkalining our body to fight the acid. Remember, acid is negative. It's all the bad. It eats up, literally eats up your cells. You don't want that. So the whole thing with the 5G, and when they say a flag, you know, people are going to say, oh, we'll take down the 5G, right? We don't want it. Well, the false flag is here. Because of the technology, because of knowing everybody's email and information, what they call the all-seeing eye now, because everybody has a cell phone, they've been able to uncover some horrific things about the world. People that were running the world and doing things that they were involved that I'm not even going to talk about right now. And all those people are going to come down. Those are the false idols that God talks about in the Bible. And they will fall in front of us. And so we can say that the 5G is, you know, is something that people are going to be, you know, very happy that we have it right now, because it uncovered so much. like sex trafficking of children and so much more. That's going to be revealed, and it's being revealed as we speak. You can Google sex trafficking and you can see how many people have been arrested. They're not saying names, but there's a great amount of people that are being arrested as we speak. And there's a lot of people that are thanking those 5G computers, which is what they have in CERN, because it's what's telling them the future, meaning the predictions of how many numbers are going to die, what's going to happen. So basically, like even the president would say, if everybody stayed home, I believe last Friday, if everybody would stay home as of last Friday, there would only be 200,000 people affected. So that's the computer telling them the predictions by them putting in the data that they know today. So, and if not, it was going to be in the millions. Anyways, so a lot of people are going to be thankful to these machines. Now, the hidden agenda on this, and it's not even hidden, because the agenda is that in the Bible it says that you will be, you will have to have the sign of the beast. That the false god will give you the sign of the beast, and without the sign of the beast you won't be able to purchase anything, do anything. Well, we know today that money holds bacteria up to 9 days. It holds a virus, so nobody wants to touch money right now. So the whole thing about putting a chip in your arm, because it even says it in the arm in the Bible, it says either on your forehead or on your arm, the sign of the beast will be put on you. And if you let them put that on you, you will not go into the kingdom of God. So that's what that says. So now the agenda is to put the chip, and with the chip, it's, you know, a lot of people will conform that don't believe in God, because they're going to say, yeah, you know, it's going to be a little chip that's going to have all your bank information. You're going to be able to clock in with it. You're going to be able to, it's going to have everything, your passport, everything. So there's going to be a point whether you're going to want to go that route or not. So again, that's the false flag, that's the false idol, that is the Antichrist, as what it says in the Bible, because it says that we will pass this. Again, we have to alkaline our body, and we will survive. Most of us will survive, and we'll be okay, and we're going to learn from this, because God's that perfect. He's letting us get back down to basics, to for most people, they don't even know how to be by themselves, like within themselves. Nevertheless, with other people that maybe they are with just because of appearances, or just because of what the outer life looks like, and it's not even in their soul. So after we come out of this, there's going to be 7 years of peace. And I believe that that's going to be the time where people are conforming, you know. And I do believe in the Bible, and I want you guys to download the app, the Bible app. It's free. You guys can read for your own self. You don't have to believe me. You can do your own research. Again, I'm just sparking that little light so you guys can do your research, because I found my purpose. Now you guys need to find yours, and we're gonna come out of this, but you guys have to understand what's coming. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to put a message or message me, whatever I can. Stay positive, because positivity is alkaline. Happy, love is alkaline. Fear is acid. And fear will kill you. Fear is evil. There's a lot of things going on, but we're going to get through this together, because together we're stronger, and we're all connected. We're all connected. So sending you guys a lot of love, and God bless you guys all. Mwah.